Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. So we are back with another interesting tutorial on Docker, Prometheus and Grafana. So in this today's tutorial, we are going to see how we can monitor Docker using Prometheus and Grafana. So we will configure the Docker machine to send the metrics to Prometheus, and then we will make use of that metrics to create dashboards and chart on Grafana. So before we start, I would request you to subscribe to my channel, like the video, share, and comment. So as a first step, as usual, what we do, we need a machine with Docker installed. So I have a CentOS machine where the Docker is installed and the Docker is running. So if you run the systemctl status Docker, you can see it's running. So I'm going to use this machine. So if you don't know how to set up Docker, please check my videos in my channel and also the video description where I have linked the tutorials. Okay. If you go to the Docker documentation, we will be able to get the complete information how to set up Prometheus to get the Docker metrics. So you can see the configuration to the daemon.json file, which is located in /etc/docker. So we have to do that configuration on our Docker machine. Okay. So I'm going to go to the location /etc/docker. So in my case, there is no daemon.json file. So I'm going to create a file. So in your Docker machine, if you have the daemon.json, you have to edit the file and you have to give the stanza as it's mentioned. Okay. So I have created a file daemon.json and I'm going to enter the values into it. Okay. So I'm going to use vi editor. So if you scroll down, you can see this is what we have to give. So the metric address we have to give, which should be 127.0.0.1, 9323 is the port, and experimental true. But unfortunately, in my case, this does not work because this IP address 127.0.0.1 is not working. But I will still show you. I'm giving those detail, and I will try to check the metrics from Docker CentOS machine. Okay, and it will not work, but I will show you which IP we can change and in how to get the metrics. So please don't just wait. Maybe this works for you, but I don't know, it does not work for me. Okay, so let's restart the Docker. Okay, so I'm going to stop the Docker. So systemctl stop Docker, and rather than I'm starting the Docker as systemctl start Docker, I'm going to just run the docker daemon. Okay, so it's going to give me the log file as well. So you can also just restart Docker also. That is also fine. Okay. So let's go to the IP address of your machine and the port number 9323 with the /metrics. So that's where the metrics from the Docker will be given to us. Okay. So if I run the portal with IP address and the port number 9323/metrics, it says I'm not able to reach the location, right? So one reason could be, it's blocked in the firewall. We can try to enable that port in the firewall. So I'm going to run the command to add the port 9323 to the firewall exception. Okay, and I will reload the firewall. Let's try again to access the metrics location, but still it's giving us not reachable, right? So the problem for me is because of the IP address we given in the metrics data. Okay, so let's let me show you how to correct that. So I will go back to the editing of daemon.json file. Okay, and I'm going to change the 127.0.0.1 IP address into 0.0.0.0. Okay, and the port number 9323. So I'm going to change to this and I will save the file. Okay, let me restart the Docker again. So I'm running the docker daemon file, and if I refresh the page, you see we can see the metrics now captured. So you can see different metrics available from the Docker. It's give us the details about the containers, the engine daemons. It also talks about the Docker Swarm and performance. There are a lot of data coming up here, so we can go through this one by one later point. And we will have to connect these metrics into Prometheus, and also from Prometheus as a data source, we have to connect it to the Grafana. So I'm going to start the Docker as a service now. Okay, so I'm going to use systemctl start Docker, and if you run the state, as you can see, it's running. Let me clear out the screen. I'm trying to create just some sample containers, so when we run the Prometheus metrics, we will have some data from the Docker machine. Because if you don't have any containers running, or there are no actions on the Docker, we will not be getting some charts. So let me create a hello world container. Okay, so I'm just running docker run -d name hello world. So it's trying to pull the image. Okay, it has created the container, but I think it's exited. If you use docker ps-a, you can see there are two containers which are not running. So if you go to the metrics, we can see metrics for Docker Swarm Manager, right? Yeah, there are a lot of metrics getting captured. Let's look for the container metrics. Okay, so if you see there are metrics for the container, if you see there is something called status container. You can see there are two containers state stopped. There are no running container, there are no paused containers, right? So that's how we see it here as well. There are two containers which are stopped. There are no running containers. So this is what the metrics address which I have given for daemon.json and experimental true. So you can use this one if the 127.0.0.1 is not working. So let me create a container for Prometheus. So you can also use direct CentOS installation, but since we are working more on Docker, it's easy for us to create a Docker container. So I'm going to use in detached mode, giving a name as Prometheus, and the port is going to be 9090, and I'm going to attach a volume. Okay, so the volume is necessary because we have to edit the prometheus.yaml file. So I'm going to map the volume to /etc/prometheus. Okay, and the image is prom.prometheus. So since the image is not available locally, it's trying to download the image from Docker Hub. So let's wait for the container to be created. Okay, great. So we have the container created. So if you run the docker ps, we can see the Prometheus container running, and the exposed port is 9090. Okay, so let me add the 9090 to the firewall exception. Otherwise, we may not be able to access the web portal of Prometheus. So let me reload the firewall as well. Okay, now if you go to the web browser with the host IP address and 9090 as the port, we should be able to access Prometheus. Yes, we are the Prometheus homepage, and if you go to the status and targets, We have only the local host metrics. Now we need to add the Docker metrics into this. So how do we do that? If you have seen my previous Prometheus configuration tutorial, you may be knowing that we need to edit the prometheus.yaml file, right? So that file is available in the Docker volume, prometheus_conf. So where it is located, we have to go to cd/var lib/docker/volumes/prometheus_conf/_data. So that's the location for the prometheus.yaml file. Okay, so let's edit the prometheus.yaml file. Now, as we have seen in our previous tutorials on Prometheus, what we have to edit is we have to add a new entry for job name and the targets, right? Since the metrics is going to be the same path, we don't need to add the metrics path. Okay, so let's copy the same content. Let's put it, change the name of the job name into Docker. Doesn't matter, you can give any name, but please make sure that the alignment and the text is properly given. Otherwise, since it's a YAML format, if you keep some additional space or like that, it will not work. Okay, so I have given the name as job name is Docker, and we have to change the target to the IP address of your host and the port 9323. Okay, so the IP address and the port will be 9323. Okay, now we can save this file. Okay, let's save it. Let's restart the Docker container for Prometheus. Okay, we have the Prometheus container running, so that means the YAML file is fine. Now, if we go to the status of targets, we can see that container or the metrics is listed here, right? So let's see how we can make use of some of those metrics into some graph. Okay. So on the Prometheus homepage, we can copy the metrics name and we can put it there. Let's use the engine daemon container status container, right? Let's put that. Okay, so let's run it. And if you go to the graph, you can see there are some entries, right? Because we have two containers which are not running, and now we have one container for Prometheus which is running, right? Okay, now let me clear out the screen. Now before clearing, let me show you the docker run command for Grafana. Okay, because I think we should create the Grafana container to connect to the Prometheus metrics now. Okay, so to create the Grafana, we have to use docker run -d -name / name, and the name is Grafana, and the -p, which is the port 3000, which I'm mapping from host and also from the container. And we are going to use some more volumes here, which is getting mapped to the Grafana config files, data, and logs. So you can check out my tutorial on setting up Grafana on Docker to get more information on this. Okay, so let's run the command. So we have the image getting downloaded locally from the Docker Hub. So we have to wait for that to be completed. Okay, great. So we have the Grafana container also running. So if you run the Docker PS, we have two containers running, one for Grafana and one for Prometheus. Okay, let me clear out the screen. Let me add the port 3000 as well into the firewall exception. Otherwise, we'll be having issues in accessing the Prometheus on the port 3000. Sorry, Grafana on the port 3000. Okay, because we had the same thing. We did it for Prometheus for the port 9090. Okay, so now if we access Grafana on the port 3000, we have to log in with the default username as admin and the password as admin, and you can set a new password. Okay, great. So now we are on the dashboard for Grafana and we have to add the data source. Select Prometheus, okay, and we have to give the host IP address for Prometheus. So I may be going a little bit quick, so you can pause the video and you can check. So let's test the connection and you can see it's successfully connected. Okay. So again, if that successful connection is not coming, you may have some issues with the ports which is blocked or some other issues with connectivity. Okay. So let's create some dashboards and we'll add some panel into it. Okay, so I'm going to search again in the query the container states. Now you can see there is some data coming in the chart because we just created these containers and Grafana and Prometheus, right? So once you start using it for quite period, you will have more data into it. So you can change the visualization as you need. So you can make the changes. You can create the panels accordingly. Okay, I'm going to go with the graph. Okay, let's try to change the display settings, which may give some better view of that. You can try out these settings which suits you. Okay, so I'm just trying out one by one to see which looks good. So there are a lot of options there. Okay, yes, this looks fine. So I'm going to save this panel as Docker container status. Okay, I'm going to save this. I'm going to put it to a new dashboard as Docker dashboard. So we'll add more panels into this with more data which is need to be monitored. Okay, so let's go to the metrics again. Let's find out something we can add into the panel. So I'm going to use this metrics now. Okay, I'm going to add a new panel and I'm going to put it into the metrics, which is for engine daemon. And so let's again see what's the best visualization we can use. Okay, I think this looks fine, so I'm going to save this as a Docker image. So it's a daemon status, so Docker image daemon. Okay, just save it, and I'm going to put it in the same dashboard. So let me just rearrange to a better view. So these are some samples. Okay, so these may not be really useful for you, but you can make use of which metrics you really want. Just go through the list of metrics, copy that, put it to the dashboard, you create your own graph. You can use what kind of visualization you have to use, create what you need, and monitor your Docker instance. Okay, I'm creating a Docker Swarm tracking chart as well. So because my Docker machine is actually part of Docker Swarm, so I can make use of some monitoring for Docker Swarm as well. Currently, you can see there are no data into the Docker Swarm chart. So to see some data, let me create a service in Docker. So as I said, this is a Docker Swarm. Okay, so let me create a Docker service. Okay, so let me create Docker service create hyphen hyphen name nginx hyphen p 8080 is the port which is mapped from the host, and 80 from the Docker service. Okay, and I'm going to give 4 replicas, and nginx is the image. But I don't have multiple nodes here. The other nodes are not available, so it's going to be only just one node. Okay, I got the message the nodes are not available because I have kept my manager in the drain status. Okay, I had to enable it to active. So now I have to remove the old nginx service, and I will let me create a new one again. Okay, great. So we have a Docker service created now, and if I go back to the report and if I refresh, there are some data now, right? So you can see in the Docker Swarm there is a red bar, right? So that means it started tracking the Docker Swarm metrics as well. Let's create one more panel, and this time I'm going to use the metrics for Swarm Manager nodes. So this will give the nodes in the Docker Swarm. Okay. Okay, that looks great, right? So we have a few charts which monitor Docker, so you can create more charts. So just to show you again, so if you go to /etc/docker and check the daemon.json file, this is what the entries we have given there. So you can double check if you are giving the right data there, if you're not facing some issues when getting the metrics. Okay, and also if you go to the Prometheus.yaml file. Okay, so if you see it, which is available in the uh, volume. Okay, so you can see I have given a new job name Docker and the target name in the static config location. That's how you configure the Prometheus YAML file to scrap the metrics. So to summarize, we have seen how to configure daemon.json with metrics address to collect the Docker metrics. So we have also created Prometheus Docker container, configured the Prometheus YAML file to scrap the metrics from Docker. Finally, we have created Grafana Docker container, and we have integrated Prometheus data source into Grafana, and we have created beautiful charts and dashboards. I hope this tutorial is informative for you, and thank you for watching. Kindly subscribe to my channel, like the video, share and comment.